Made with Spoken. Celestial Convergence Dragons of Vacari No. 3 by T.A. McEvoy. Digital narration, performed by multiple digital voices. The skies above Lyra'el shimmered faintly beneath the waning moonlight. The protective wards pulsed over the treetops like a living veil, but the air carried an uneasy weight that even the roots of the oldest trees seemed to feel. High above the forest spires, two vast shadows cut across the clouds. Voraxia, the shadow dragon, moved with deliberate grace, her scales a shifting tapestry of midnight. Cold amusement burned in her eyes as she surveyed the warded skies.
"The platinum fools grow bold,"
she hissed, her voice like silk dragged over stone.
"Training riders beneath their gilded wings, as if that will save them."
Yet beneath the scorn coiled a thread of unease she dared not name. The memory of a light too fierce, too unnatural to ignore, pressed against her mind like a thorn. Beside her flew Vorathos, the abyssal dragon, her obsidian coils trailing tendrils of darkness that writhed and vanished into nothing. Her muffled voice rumbled like the depths themselves.
"Perhaps it is time they remembered whose skies these are."
On the cliffs below, younger kin shadow and abyssal alike waited in silence, wings folded tight, eyes gleaming with hunger. Voraxia's smile cut like a blade.
"We test them first, and when the time is right, we will tear them down."
She angled her wings and glided toward the glowing wards, provocation made deliberate, unmistakable. But she had been seen. From the heart of the city, a blinding arc of silver light erupted skyward. Radiantus, the platinum dragon, soared into the night, his wings vast, his body burning with dawnlight. Each beat sent ripples of radiance cascading through the dark, searing away the shadows. His eyes burned with unshaken resolve.
"Enough."
His voice rolled like thunder through stone and sky alike.
"You cross the line once again, Voraxia. You will not breach these skies."
Another surge of brilliance followed. Aurelius rose in his celestial form, gleaming like a living star. Behind him, more of their kin unfolded from the glade, platinum and silver wings weaving radiant patterns against the night. Voraxia halted at the barrier's edge, her gaze narrowing as the hosts of light gathered.
"We only came to admire your efforts,"
she purred, venom in the silk of her tone.
"Surely you would not deny us a glimpse of your precious riders."
Radiantus's gaze hardened, his voice a low rumble that shook the wards themselves.
"Glance if you must, Voraxia, but hear me. Touch no rider of the noble dragons. Their lives are bound to ours by more than blood and breath. To raise a claw or a shadow against them is to sign your own death writ. Test that bond, and you will not survive the lesson."
Voratos's growl followed, low and implacable.
Or perhaps we came to remind them that war is never far from their fragile peace.
Radiantus spread his wings wider, his form blazing, unflinching.
"You will go no further."
Aurelius's voice rang out, bright and unbending.
"And if you choose to test our resolve, know this, we are ready."
The skies froze in a silence sharp as drawn steel. On the cliffs, the lesser dark dragons shifted uneasily, waiting for the signal. Voraxia's gaze cut toward her sister. Fury coiled with something colder, but she managed only a thin, cruel smile.
"Shall we see how bright their resolve truly burns?"
With a shriek like rending night, she lunged. The heavens split. Radiantus surged forward, silver fire wreathing him like a living shield. His claws struck hers with a crack that shook the forest below. Vorathos's roar followed, a torrent of black flame lashing outward, so cold it seemed to burn. The blast caught Seraphine, a young platinum mid-turn. She screamed as the abyssal fire raked across her wings, smoke trailing as she spiraled toward the trees. At the last instant she flared, battered and shuddered, her silver scales scorched black. Voratos' voice rumbled with grim satisfaction.
"Down one already."
But then Aurelius moved. He wheeled above the battlefield, starlight streaming from his wings, and loosed a pulse of pure celestial fire. The radiance poured like a falling star reborn, cascading over the wounded dragon. Before the eyes, Seraphine's blackened wings knit themselves whole, the glow of dawnlight spreading across her scales. Voraxia faltered mid-beat, disbelief flaring before she masked it with rage.
"Impossible."
Varathos's eyes narrowed.
They heal faster than before. This was not so.
A tremor of unease roughened her voice, and she hated it. Light and shadow collided again, fire and void twisting in the night. The dragons of Lyra'el moved as one, a wall of radiant wings holding firm. Aurelius's voice rang above the chaos, sharp and sonorous as a bell.
You will not break us. You will never understand what binds us, but you will remember it.
Varaxia's mind raced. Some trick, some newborn power.
We are not ready.
Varathos growled, her coils shuddering.
Not yet.
Varaxia seethed, fury igniting her blood. She flung her wings wide, darkness boiling from her scales.
Enough of this dance. Their light is no shield. I will tear it open myself.
She dove at Radiantus, claws flashing, eyes locked not on him but on Aurelius. Radiantus rose to meet her. Silver brilliance poured from his wings, his body a living wall of dawn. Their talons clashed with a thundercrack that rattled the sky. Varaxia lashed with her tail, shadows gouging across his flank, but the platinum did not yield. Above them, Aurelius ascended higher, his glow intensifying until it blazed across the heavens.
Let her try.
From his throat burst a torrent of pure celestial fire, searing and absolute. It tore the darkness apart like dawn splitting night. The beam struck, and Varaxia reeled back, her shriek piercing the stars, not from flame, but from the unbearable purity that seared her shadowed form.
That light, it should not exist.
She spat, fury twisted into disbelief. With a single beat of her vast wings, she wheeled away. The lesser dark dragons wavered on the cliffs, caught between hunger and fear. At last, Varaxia's snarl cut through the night.
Not yet.
Varaxia hissed.
But soon the abyssal dominion will rise again, and all your light will burn for nothing.
With a lash of their wings, she and Varathos vanished into the storm clouds, their kin trailing after them in a ragged, hissing flock. Smoke and shadow scattered in their wake, leaving only silence and the bright thrum of the wards. Radiantus hovered above the glade, his silver gaze hardening. The name lingered bitter on his tongue.
The Abyssal Dominion.
Aurelius descended beside him, his radiance dimming to a steady glow.
They grow too bold, or too desperate.
Either way,
Radiantus said, voice like a vow.
we must be ready. It will not be strength alone that turns the tide. It will be unity dragons, elves, riders, all who still stand for the light. Keisha bled to shield a single Pegasus. That choice was not a weakness. It was proof. And if we forget that,
His voice deepened, rumbling like distant storm clouds.
then even our power will fail us. But if we remember,
He wheeled higher, silver fire streaming from his wings until the night itself seemed to bow before his light.
then the Dominion will break before us.
The dragons of Lyra'el rose in his wake, their wings a storm of silver and flame. And though the shadows gathered beyond the horizon, the city beneath the great tree shone brighter still. Crystal Vale shimmered beneath the morning sun, its spires of pale blue stone glistening like frost-kissed glass. The air here always carried a subtle charge, as if magic had seeped into every root and vein of crystal. On the high terrace of the palace, Ong stood in the training yard, blade in hand, his breath misting in the crisp air. His stance was steady, but his mind wandered. Keisha, injured again, too far away. And this time no word yet of how deep the wounds might cut. Waiting was its own torment, each hour apart heavier than the last. A ripple stirred the sky. A vast shadow crossed the sun as wings of amethyst crystal caught the light, spiraling downward in graceful arcs. Amara. The practiced blade slipped from Ong's hand, clattering to stone as he strode forward. He already knew why she had come. Her talons struck the terrace, the gust of her landing stirring his hair, her luminous eyes fixed on him.
Ong,
She rumbled, voice warm despite its depth.
I have been sent to bring you to Lyra'el. You are needed.
His jaw tightened. No further words were required.
I will come.
From the palace steps, Prince Gaelon appeared. Tension lined his face, though a faint smile flickered there.
Go,
He called.
I will follow as soon as I may. Keisha will need you.
Behind him came King Manard, his step steady though age bent his shoulders. He clasped Ong's arm firmly. The word son was still new upon his lips, but its weight carried like an anchor of belonging.
You and Keisha, both take care, my son. The winds grow dark, but remember this family stands with you, always.
Ong bowed his head.
I will remember.
Without delay, he climbed Amara's crystalline ridge, settling into the familiar place at her shoulders. Her wings unfurled with radiant strength, and with a single beat, she bore him aloft. The spires of Crystal Vale fell swiftly away, the sky widening before them. The flight was swift. Soon Lyra'el spread below, its vast glades and emerald canopies rolling like a living sea. From a high balcony at the outer gate, Radiantus watched, his eyes narrowing as a familiar gleam caught the light.
Amara,
He murmured. To the guards, his voice rang firm.
let her pass. She comes with one who is expected.
The silver gates opened, spilling light across the path, as Amara descended toward the city's heart. Ong sat steady upon her back, his thoughts already racing to the moment he would see Keisha again. He remembered the last time she had fallen, her voice still calling his name, broken but unyielding. The glades stirred as Amara swept in. Light rippled across her amethyst wings, casting violet fire in the morning sun, drawing wary awe from the sentries below. None barred her way. The word of Radiantus held. The platinum dragon himself waited upon the central landing platform, his scales gleaming bright in the light. Around him, celestial and platinum kin lingered at a distance, the air still taut with the memory of battle. Amara alighted with practiced ease, amethyst talons striking stone with ringing grace. Radiantus inclined his head. His voice was steady, though warmth threaded through it.
Amara, welcome. I would greet you under gentler skies, but I am grateful for your coming. Your counsel and your kin strengthen us more than you know.
The amethyst dragon lowered her head in greeting, humor glinting faintly in her gaze.
Of course you are glad to see me, Radiantus. Who would not?
A short laugh escaped Ong as he dismounted, though his eyes already searched the pathways for Keisha. But before Ong could move further, Radiantus lifted one great wing, a signal as commanding as it was silent. Ong froze, breath catching, his urgency clashing against the dragon's wordless command. His fists flexed at his sides, every instinct screaming for him to run, but he held, his jaw tight.
Wait, Ong,
Radiantus said, his voice heavy with command.
There are matters you must hear first, before you reach Keisha.
Ong's expression hardened.
I have waited long enough. My wife lies wounded while we talk.
Another voice steadied the air, Kimras, stepping from among the gathered council.
You must hear this first, Ong, for her sake and for yours. There are truths she is not yet ready to face, but you must be.
The tension between them hung taut as a bowstring. Then Ong gave a sharp nod.
Very well, but speak swiftly.
Radiantus turned, wings sweeping outward toward the city square.
Come, the council gathers.
As they moved, Valion and Kalorn, lingering near a high terrace, exchanged a glance.
Something's shifting.
Valion murmured.
Aye,
Kalorn replied.
and not lightly.
They followed at a careful distance. By the time they reached the square, a throng of elves, dragonkin and allies had gathered news of the skirmish, and Ong's arrival spreading like wildfire through the crowd. At the far edge, Aurelius circled once before alighting upon a stone outcropping, his gaze sharp and all-seeing. Umbral elves lingered at the crowd's borders, cloaks heavy, their whispers curling like smoke. Aurelius's eyes narrowed. He caught the flicker of subtle movements, listening, watching. Radiantus stepped into the center, and even the restless hush gave way. His voice rang out like tempered steel.
Enough!
The murmurs died at once. Even the umbral elves stilled.
I have tolerated your presence here long enough,
Radiantus declared.
Warnings were given, promises were broken, spies and whispers poison these halls even now.
His gaze locked upon the cloaked figures upon Rhys, who strode forward, hands twitching at his sides, his voice a brittle thread of defiance.
You go too far, Radiantus. We have done nothing this day.
Silence!
The platinum dragon's voice cracked like a blade against stone.
Either you take what remains of your place here and leave willingly, or you will be cast from these halls. The umbral elves are no longer welcome in Lyra'el. The time of patience is past."
From his perch, Aurelius's white eyes flickered once, silent approval. Rhys stiffened, jaw tight. His gaze swept the crowd, then returned to Radiantus, venom simmering in his voice.
You will regret this.
Radiantus spread his wings, gaze burning cold. He took no pleasure in the decree, but peace demanded clarity and trust, and could not endure rot.
"Perhaps, but not today. Today you will go, or you will be gone."
A silence rippled outward, heavy and final, marking the line at last drawn. By morning's climb past the highest branches, the last of the umbral elves emerged from their quarters packs hastily gathered, faces hidden beneath hoods. Above them, celestial dragons circled, wings shimmering like living banners in the pale sky. At Radiantus's command, they descended. Great talons lifted crates, supplies, and even those who lingered too long in defiance. Too many had been lost when hesitation ruled before. He would not be late again. No words were exchanged, none were needed. Rhys stood among his people, fury burning in his eyes, but he did not speak. The line had been carved deep, and not even he dared cross it today. As the celestial dragons bore the last of the umbral elves toward the horizon, Radiantus watched from the high terrace, his gaze unwavering until shadow faded from sight.
"They will be taken to a fort,"
he said quietly to those beside him.
"and there they will remain. Its borders are sealed, and so too is their return."
The gathered guards and onlookers parted as Radiantus turned, his gaze settling upon Ong now standing with Kimras, Caelon, Valion, and Aurelius.
"You have come at a time of change, Ong,"
Radiantus said gravely.
"There was a skirmish 2 nights past. Voraxia and Varathos tested our skies. We held them. No loss among the platinum or celestial kin."
He paused, the silver fire in his eyes dimming.
"But it was not the battle that concerns us most."
Aurelius's voice cut through, deliberate and resonant.
Before they fled, Voraxia declared this. The abyssal dominion has returned.
A hush fell. Valion stiffened, eyes darting nervously, but Caelon was the first to find words, his tone low with unease.
"I have heard that name, but not its full weight. What did it bring upon Vacari?"
All eyes turned to Kimras. The golden dragon's silence pressed heavily, carrying centuries within it. At last his wings folded, and his voice came deep and measured.
You do not know, Caelon. Few people are alive now who truly do. The Dominion razed forests until groves stood blackened under their shadow. Rivers choked with ash. The skies darkened as Varus and his allies swept across the land. Even now, when the wind shifts, I still smell the char of the fallen groves.
His voice caught not in weakness, but in the burden of memory. Ong stepped forward, fists clenched, voice low and fierce.
"And it was here,"
he swept his gaze across the gathering,
"that Varus and Phoenix Shadowwalker tried to sacrifice my wife to the abyss itself."
A ripple of shock moved through Valion and Caelon, but they held their tongues.
"Had it not been for Kimras and Amara, we would have lost her."
His voice faltered, just for a breath, as the weight of that night pressed down. He still saw Keisha bound in chains, still heard her scream as the abyss closed in. Never again. Amara's amethyst voice cut sharply through the stillness.
What we want to know is this.
Her gaze moved from Radiantus to Aurelius.
How has the abyssal dominion returned? Varus's power was destroyed. Talius the silver dragon ended him, and Ong slew Phoenix Shadowwalker. We saw it. It is not possible they lead this.
The square fell into silence. At last Aurelius spoke calmly, but edged with iron.
Yes, Varus Izeron is dead, and Phoenix Shadowwalker as well.
He let the words settle like stone.
But who or what has taken up the name of the abyssal dominion remains unknown.
Radiantus stirred, his gaze sweeping the assembly.
"One thing we do know,"
he said, his voice low but unyielding.
"Whoever hides behind that veil is tied to them both. We do not yet know their full purpose save for a truth we cannot ignore."
His eyes darkened.
"Revenge."
A ripple coursed through the circle.
"Revenge against the noble dragons,"
he continued,
"for what had been denied them."
Kimras turned, his golden gaze falling on Ong, his voice grave with certainty.
And if they are tied to Varus and Phoenix, then Keisha is in danger.
Ong's fists tightened, knuckles white. For a heartbeat, he was not in Lyra'el, but in that ruined grove again. Keisha's scream echoing, chains rattling, dark fire closing in. His voice came rough, laced with memory.
Do they mean to sacrifice her again?
Before Kimrus could answer, Amara stepped forward, her amethyst voice like shards of amethyst.
No, not this time.
Her gaze hardened, catching the morning light.
They want her gone, for what she represents, for what she survived. To them, that is a threat greater than death itself.
The silence that followed was heavy as stone. At last, Ong gave a sharp nod, shoulders taut. His vow rose unyielding within him, silent and absolute, never again.
Then I will stand by her side, whatever comes.
Radiantus exhaled slowly, folding his wings.
For now, return to your duties. We will prepare for what lies ahead.
He turned to Ong, his voice softening.
Go, see your wife. She will need you now, and you, her.
Ong nodded once, already moving toward the path that would take him to Keisha's side. The gathering broke apart, shadows lingering among the ancient trees. Yet the unspoken truth weighed heavier than the air itself. The abyssal dominion had risen again, and vengeance walked with it. Caelorn lingered at the edge, the weight of Kimrus's words pressing hard upon him. Forests razed, rivers turned to ash, skies drowned in shadow. He had seen the scars left in the emerald woods by lesser wars, how even fairies and nymphs trembled when darkness touched their groves. If what Kimrus spoke was true, if the Dominion had once blackened all of Vacari, then even the oldest wards of the emerald woods would not hold if it rose again. His gaze flicked skyward, toward the unseen borders of his home.
I will not let them fall,
he whispered, quiet but resolute.
Not the fairies, not the forests.
The vow settled in his chest, bright and unyielding like a flame carried from starlight into shadow. The sun burned white above Arcadia, pouring its blaze across towers of pale blue stone cracked with age and shadowed by darker things. The air shimmered, heavy with heat, yet in the eastern wing of the palace, the temperature had fallen unnaturally. Frost clung to the corners of the once opulent suite like lace spun from ice. Silken curtains sagged under a brittle crust. The floor beneath Lyra's bare feet was cool to the touch, a small comfort against the furnace world outside. Her wards pulsed with threads of winter, each breath of frost pushing back the desert's fire. She drew her black-silver cloak tighter across her shoulders, its enchantments whispering like distant bells, and allowed herself a flicker of satisfaction. Arcadia, once proud, once free, now bent beneath her will. King Vaedras had broken more swiftly than she anticipated, his council of scholars collapsing into fearful whispers. Guards no longer met her eyes. Servants moved like shades, silent and careful. The city was hers. Mulcrag, too, had yielded. The forge complex of the ember-deep dwarves now groaned under a burden of molten corruption, its chimneys coughing black smoke into the scorched sky. Their defiance had lasted only moments before the shadow smothered it.
One by one they kneel,
Lyra murmured, her lips curling. Yet one prize still eluded her, the moon Seraphidians. Elusive shades of silver and shadow, they haunted ruined wells and glades, surfacing only beneath the moon. Even her most cunning spies had missed them. She was turning toward the door to renew the hunt when the chamber stirred. A sudden breath of frigid air glazed her wards with ice. A voice, low and edged with shadow, slipped through her mind.
Rhys and the Umbral Elves are near Arcadia. See what they have achieved. Find a place for them within A4. The Dominion's roots must spread further.
Lyra's smile vanished.
Rhys, that incompetent fool.
She pressed her palm to the frozen door. Frost cracked as she shoved it wide, desert heat rushing in only to falter against her shimmering wards.
Let us see what blunders you bring me this time,
she murmured, striding into the corridor. Her boots rang against stone, each step trailing a razor-edged chill. In the front courtyard, beneath a fractured archway, a column of dark-cloaked figures emerged, moving swiftly and warily. At their head stood Rhys. Lyra halted, eyes narrowing.
Well, the wind has finally carried you here, though far too slowly.
Her glare cut colder than the ice at her heels. The umbral elves shifted uneasily.
I am told you bring word and ruin. Let us hope it is more of the former this time.
Rhys straightened, forcing composure though unease flickered in his gaze. His stomach lurched as he opened his mouth.
It was Radiantus. He's unreasonable.
A shadow lashed from Lyra's hand, coiling tight around his throat. His words broke into a strangled gasp, boots scraping stone as the darkness lifted him from the ground.
Enough,
Lyra snapped, her voice ringing like shattering glass. She tightened the coil until his vision swam, then released him. He crumpled to one knee, coughing. It was the first time he had stood in her presence. Terror burned raw in his eyes.
You should know better than to waste my time,
she hissed.
Your people whispered in the wrong shadows, and now I must clean the stain of your failure.
She paced before them, frost cracking beneath her talons, each step leaving icy scars in the stone.
You will not return to Lyra'el. You will remain here in Afor. You will learn its heat, its hunger, its silence. Consider it your lesson.
Rhys bowed, throat raw.
As you command.
But when his head dipped, his silver eyes smoldered not only with fear, but with something darker.
You will divide your forces,
Lyra continued coldly.
Half to the cradle of echoes. Secure it. Its deep wells of power belong to the Dominion.
Murmurs rippled through the column. Rhys gestured sharply to Varen and Selthra. Both stepped forward, cloaks whispering, and bowed low. At his signal, half their company wheeled away, vanishing toward the sunken cliffs in the east.
The rest,
Lyra said,
will take Drift Point Haven, strip its wreckage for our use, find the truth of the sable Leviathan, and bind it if it yet lives. I will not have my dominion rooted in rot.
Rhys moved to follow, but her voice cracked like a whip.
Did I say you were going?
He froze mid-step.
No, Lady Lyra.
Then do not presume. Appoint others.
His jaw tightened.
Nadra, Kalphas.
The chosen commanders bowed sharply and led their warriors into the burning sands, shadows trailing them like smoke. Lyra stepped closer, her own shadow stretching across Rhys.
As for you,
her voice lowered, sharp with frost,
you will go to Oasis City. Make yourself indispensable to the Sultan. Win his favor. Worm your way into his court. Turn his banners toward the Dominion. When that is done, you will travel to the Cradle, to Drift Point, to every holding that matters. Report to me without fail.
Rhys bowed deep, voice hoarse.
It will be done.
Then why are you still here? Go.
He turned to leave, boots clattering, when her voice lashed out again.
Wait.
He froze, shoulders stiffening.
I want something more,
Lyra said, eyes narrowing.
You studied under Maedra. Did you learn what I commanded? The herbs, the poisons.
Rhys hesitated, then inclined his head.
I did. More than she intended me to know. Enough to carry her secrets away. Enough to wield them.
And?
Lyra pressed. Her tone was sharp, merciless.
Did you bring them from Lyra'el?
Some,
he admitted.
The rest are being gathered by one I left behind. They will follow.
Lyra's expression softened, not with kindness, but with cold satisfaction.
Good. Afor's sands breed their own poisons. Learn them, master them. I may require them sooner than you think.
Rhys bowed again, though his jaw was set like iron. Only then did Lyra ask, her voice smooth as glass over ice.
And Keisha?
He shifted, unease flickering once more.
When we were banished, she still lay in the infirmary, alive, wounded, guarded.
A gleam of cruel delight sparked in Lyra's eyes before she masked it.
Then focus on your task, the herbs, the poisons. If she survives to leave Lyra'el, I will have other work for you.
Her words cut like frost across steel.
Now go.
Rhys dropped into a bow deeper than before, then turned and strode away, cloak snapping behind him. At the archway, he slowed, casting one last glance over his shoulder. His voice was a whisper, sharp with bitterness.
She is beautiful, but too much heart will be the death of her.
The words dissolved into the heat as he vanished down the corridor, already bearing the weight of his new orders toward Oasis City. Lyra lingered in the courtyard, a faint smirk curving her lips as the last of the umbral company disappeared into the desert's glare.
Soon enough,
she murmured.
all of A4 will kneel, piece by piece, sector by sector.
Turning back toward her frost-laden chambers, she let the desert sun press against her wards until the air hissed in protest.
If only conquest burned as hot as this wretched place,
she whispered. The door shut behind her with a crack of ice, leaving the palace silent beneath the blazing sky, while, in its depths, the heart of A4 pulsed ever darker with the Dominion's claim. The night in Shadowhaven was unusually still. Clouds rolled low and heavy, smothering the stars above the crooked sprawl of towers, alleys, and smoke-stained docks. To outsiders, the city might have seemed asleep, but shadows moved with purpose, and unease thrummed through the streets like a second heartbeat. From the high chamber of Blackspire Keep, Kellan stood at an arched window overlooking the pirate stronghold. Once chaotic, Shadowhaven now bore Muldrak's hand in every silenced brawl and every ship flying the Dominion's colours. Discipline had been hammered into disorder like a thin sheen of oil on water, gleaming but treacherous beneath the touch. Kellan knew better. Appearances were tools, never truths. A cold flicker brushed his mind. The call, familiar, sharp as frost. He straightened.
I hear you.
The mysterious one's voice slid through the dark, silken as a blade drawn slowly from its sheath.
Kellan, the time has come to tighten our grip. Shadowhaven will be our harbor and our blade. You will command it.
His jaw tightened, though he masked it with a faint smile.
Muldrak has grown bold.
Muldrak will remain the face they fear, but never the hand that holds the leash. That is yours. Should he forget this, remind him. A taste of your power, enough to break arrogance, not usefulness.
The presence withdrew, leaving only the hiss of waves against the black cliffs. Kellan lingered at the window, bitterness curling in his mouth.
Let the city serve the Dominion,
he murmured.
But it will serve through me.
His gaze hardened. Muldrak would learn his place. Lyra. He worried for her more than he would ever admit. She was not the same girl he remembered, no longer content to advise from the edges, but now seizing power with ice-veined certainty. His loyalty to his sister remained unbroken, yet unease twisted beneath it, caught between the bond of blood and the shadowy ambitions that drew them ever deeper into a dangerous alliance. Her rise in A4 had not surprised him. That she would carve dominion over forsaken sands with ruthless will was expected. What unsettled him was not her strength, but the one who commanded them both.
Resurrect the Abyssal Dominion,
they had said. The name itself was a wound reopening. Vuarus, Phoenix Shadowwalker. Names bound to fire, ruin, and chains. Both had fallen, their power broken and their ambitions destroyed. So who now dared weave their web beneath that banner? Who bound them all to a name steeped in blood and ashes? A flicker of doubt clawed at Kellan's chest, tightening like a vice. His jaw clenched. But ambition quickly overcame hesitation, as it always did, one thing at a time. And for now, there was Shadowhaven. Kellan smoothed the folds of his dark cloak, his eyes narrowing with resolve.
First the pirates,
he murmured.
Then the rest.
His expression hardened. First, Muldrak would remember his place. The command hall sat deep within the keep, a cavernous chamber where pirate captains and enforcers gathered to divide spoils. 2 cutthroats flanked its iron-banded doors, blades half-drawn more for show than readiness. One stepped forward, a cruel smirk splitting his scarred face.
No entry without Muldrak's word.
Kellan's eyes slid to him, cold as obsidian.
Then you've made the first mistake of your short life.
A crack of blue-black energy leapt from his hand. The guard convulsed, body seized in a net of shadow. Smoke and scorched leather stung the air. With a strangled cry, the man collapsed, writhing on the floor. Kellan stepped over him without pause and shoved the doors wide. They slammed into the stone walls with a thunderous clang. At the far end, Muldrak rose sharply, fury carved into his face.
I told them I do not want to speak with you.
Kellan shut the door with deliberate calm, the bolt clicking into place.
We will speak, Muldrak, and when we are done, you will understand who rules this city.
Muldrak's fists clenched.
This is my city. You think to walk in like some shadow-blessed tyrant and—
The shadows moved. They coiled outward like living chains and snapped around his chest and limbs. With a crack, the pirate lord was hurled to the ground, stone fracturing beneath him. The weight of the binding pressed down until his breath came ragged. Kellan circled him slowly, eyes aglow with cold violet fire.
You were told to be a figurehead, useful, visible, feared, yes, but never the one who commands.
Muldrak strained against the bonds, veins standing in his neck.
You serve.
Kellan cut him off, voice sharp as broken glass.
You obey, and you will remember this.
A flick of his wrist and pain surged through the bindings. Muldrak convulsed, a guttural cry tearing from his throat as scorched sweat rose acrid in the air.
With every breath you take from this day forward.
The shadows dissolved. Muldrak collapsed, trembling. Slowly, shame heavy on his shoulders, he lowered his head until his brow touched the stone. Kellan's lips curved faintly. He seated himself in the great chair at the head of the chamber, calm, deliberate, absolute.
Good.
The summons spread quickly, carried on whispers sharper than knives. Within the hour, the command hall was crowded with pirate captains and lieutenants, the air stinking of brine, smoke, and unease. Every man and woman had heard something of what transpired, and none wished to test whether the rumours had spoken too kindly. Muldrak stood at the fore, his usual roar forced into brittle authority. His pallor betrayed him.
Listen close,
he growled.
Orders have changed. Cross them and you'll regret it. First, the filth ends. The alleys, the docks, everything. Anyone caught looking the other way will answer to me.
His hand twitched at the scorched tunic clinging to his chest. None missed it.
Second, the ships. I want them repaired, seaworthy and ready. When the call comes, Shadowhaven will strike as fleet and fortress both.
Murmurs rippled, strangled quickly into silence.
And third, the chamber above this hall belongs now to Lord Kellan. Remember it.
Dozens of eyes shifted toward the silent figure seated in command. Kellan had not spoken a word since the gathering began, yet his presence weighed on every soul like a blade across their throats. The captains dispersed swiftly, muttering to themselves as they left. By dawn the whispers would spread. Muldrak gave the orders, but Kellan ruled. Alone once more, Kellan climbed the stairs to the upper suite. The door stood ajar. The former occupant had fled without daring to linger. The room reeked of stale ale and sea brine, a pirate's lair, crude and unworthy.
No longer.
He raised a hand. Shadows unfurled, rippling outward, veining the walls with sigils of the Drew Key. Crude furnishings shriveled to dust. In their place rose polished iron and dark wood, a throne-like chair settling beneath the arched window. The chamber shuddered once, then stilled, as though the keep itself acknowledged its new lord. Kellan crossed the room and seated himself with deliberate ease. Below, Shadowhaven stirred. Pirates scouring streets, ships patched and armed, enforcers marching with new discipline. The rhythm of boots and steel echoed with the tide. A thin smile touched his lips. He told himself it was for order, for the Dominion. But beneath the thought, ambition coiled sharp and selfish.
Perhaps this time, he whispered, the Dominion will not fail. Where others fell, we will rise not by fear alone, but by shadow sharpened into purpose.
He leaned back in his chair, Shadowhaven labouring below him, unaware that every step, every oath, every coin now moved to the will of the Dominion.
Professional audiobooks in a click. Spoken.